Captain Mark Moody.
Oh, brother.
We have a really unique interview today because, we talk about veteran health with The Battle Continues, and your perspective is unique. You've been in the military as early as 1986, so you're a man of experience. You're a man of frontline experience. You've been on the front lines of Iraq. You suffered a TBI,
Right.
Traumatic brain injury, the hallmark injury of this war. So you've been a patient,
Right.
and you're a medic. So you were
Was
a
a
medic.
medic.
You were a medic. So you've seen it from the medical care provider point of view,
And the infantrymen.
and the infantryman's point of view, and you've been around a while.
Right.
And you have a very unique perspective. You do some great work now educating others
Right.
on what the problems are, especially with our healthcare system, to
Right.
improve for our veterans. Go ahead. What do you think is the biggest roadblock here? Why are we having this issue?
I think a lot of reason why we have some of the issues we have with veterans, that go right on up to veteran suicide, and I'll talk about it a little more, is the way the system is set up itself, and the fact that a lot of people, in the communities as well as elected officials themselves, don't realize there's still a problem. They, every time they fix something, they think they've fixed everything, and they haven't. The VA system is set up, in essence, whether it's by design or not, to be adversarial. And so that's why you always hear veterans talking about fighting for my benefits. They shouldn't have to fight for their benefits. It's bad enough you have a backlog. It's bad enough that you have employees with the VA that are unaccountable. It's bad enough that every VA is different. You've got some that are great, like the Bronx VA. You wouldn't think it, but that's a wonderful VA. And then you've got some that are horrible. But when you talk about veteran suicides, for instance, we've got roughly on average 20-something veterans a day killing themselves while waiting on their benefits, and a lot of that goes back to self-worth and self-esteem, which is affected by the fact that they're fighting for their benefits. You've got somebody, let's say he's an infantryman. These are can-do guys. They've had it ingrained in them. I can do anything. I'm the man. I take care of things. I make it happen. Now they come home injured, wounded, whatever. They can't do everything that they used to do. And now they've got a corrupt and or inept system that's not taking care of them like they should, not getting them their benefits like they should, and they're seeing their families suffer because of it financially. Some of these guys think, I'd just be better off dead. Insurance will pay for it, whatever, the family's going to be good. Any number of things go through their minds, but it affects their self-worth, and that is greatly influencing veteran suicides, and it's a huge problem right now with today's veterans.
It's almost, it's like you're saying it's a break of contract. Like
Well, contractually, if you look at the founding of this country, one of the important things enshrined in the Constitution was stand up a military, protect our borders, protect this country, and pay those soldiers. And some people think, oh well, they're just going for another gimme. It's not a handout like some programs. This is a contractual agreement between the soldier and the United States government. I will go serve this country. I will take care of this country and its people. If something happens to me, you're going to take care of me and my family. And then they either don't do it, or they drag their feet doing it, or they make you fight for it, until you get to the point that you just give up. My God, while waiting on my benefits, I wrote probably 10 resignation letters just because I wanted to be done with it. I didn't care anymore. I just wanted it over with, regardless of if I was taken care of. The day that I found out that I was finally 100% and retired from the military and 100% with the VA, I was walking on a cane in the Bronx to drop a resignation letter in the mailbox when I got a phone call saying, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "No, I can't right now." Well, you're retired, but there's so much going on.
And these are guys that don't want to just stop working. They want to keep.
Oh yeah,
in the
every one of
military.
us wanted to stay. Every one of us would go back right now if we could. We'd probably do a damn good job, even in the condition we are, if the politicians would take their hands off of us and let us do the job that needs to be done.
So this may seem like a big diss on the VA. I mean,
It's not just
yeah,
the
we're not
VA.
trying to diss the VA. They're overwhelmed. There's a lot of patients coming in the system. The good thing is, guys like you survived your injuries. They're overwhelmed, but we need to improve this system.
Absolutely.
We need to live up to the contract. We need to not make it an either-or system.
Right, right.
Because sometimes what
Yeah.
happens is you get retirement
Yeah.
or you get your
Right.
medical benefits.
Right, and I was talking to you about that earlier offline. Most of the guys that are wounded, regardless of rank, regardless of time in service, whatever, it usually, if you have 30% or more of a rating from the military, they're going to retire you, and that rating system usually tracks with your VA rating. You could be 100% with both, like I am. And you could have, let's say, 13 years in the military, and clearly you were career minded before you were wounded. Well, you go through your VA rating process, you go through your medical retirement process, your med board and everything. You think you're finally done. Well, guess what? Now you're not getting your retirement pay. You're only getting your VA pay. Then you have to go through the CRSC, which stands for Combat Related Special Compensation, and get a rating for that, which rates how much of your VA rated disability is from combat, enemy contact, so on. And then according to that, then they do a bunch of calculations, and what happens is they end up taking most of your retirement pay away to offset your VA check. Now your VA check is meant, your VA disability rating is meant to be a compensation for quality of life that is affected. Your retirement, regardless of if it is for 20 years or medical or whatever, is a thank you for coming and doing a good job. But what they're doing is they're creating two different classes of veterans. If you've got 20 years in, you're going to get that retirement regardless. If you don't, they're going to take part of it away. Well, this is the thing. If you're out there serving your country and you get your butt blown up, you were doing the job. You were living up to that contract. If they've retired you, there should not be any calculations, any twisting of the system, any finding loopholes or whatever. It should be plain and simple. You get the same retirement check that everybody else does. Now, there's people in Congress and people in the Senate who have said they're going to fix it. They thought they fixed it in 2003, I believe, but they say they're going to fix it, but they use it as a political football. America's veterans are not a political football. There's plenty of other footballs they can throw. America's veterans are not political footballs. And it even affects our national security, because these guys that are being recruited now are looking at how we're being treated. And if they're not taking care of us, there's a whole lot of people that are going to say, you know what, I'm not going to do it, or I'm not going to stay in.
Because essentially when you join, you have a blank check payable up to the cost of your life.
Right.
When you join the military.
Right,
So
right.
contractually from the other end, you should be taken care of.
Exactly.
And
there should be no, okay, well, you got 13 years in, and so we're gonna offset your VA check, and you're not gonna get all of it. That's all you have to live on the rest of your life. Some of these guys can't work. Some can. Doesn't matter. That was a contract with the government, and they know exactly what they're doing. My God, they send more money to the Muslim Brotherhood than it would take to fund paying every veteran their VA disability. And it's just wrong. It doesn't matter what they say, how they try to give you double talk. It's wrong not to pay these veterans for what they do.
So what if you were the king and if you could make the rules for the VA? Like, for instance, if I were the king and I could do, so what I'm trying to do with The Battle Continues is kind of bypass and connect injured veterans who are kind of struggling in that system
Right.
to private doctors.
Right.
100% of donations go to connections or paying medical bills.
Right.
The other thing I would do is I would privatize the VA.
Exactly.
So I would take the veteran and say, you can go anywhere. You can go to Northwestern University, where I went to med
Right.
school. You can go to Harvard, Yale. You can go to Mayo Clinic, Kaiser.
Right.
You can go anywhere for your health care. You don't have to go in the VA
Exactly.
system. You can if you want.
Yeah.
And then the VA system gets the bill.
Exactly.
So,
The
they should get the
VA
same care that anyone
Right.
can
The
get.
VA needs to be the clearing. That they process the checks or they process the payments. And some of these VA hospitals, I'm not saying shut them down. They can still be put to good use. They can specialize in certain things, whether it's prosthetics or whatever. Some of them can specialize in taking care of homeless veterans, which is also a huge problem. Again, we're talking about bringing in all these refugees into this country, and we don't even know who they are, and spending billions of dollars doing that. But we've got veterans sleeping on sidewalks. There's a problem there. How in the world are you going to bring more people into this country, regardless of who they are, and take care of them when you won't even take care of your citizens who fought for you? There's a big problem there.
Yeah, you have to take care of and clean your own backyard
Right.
before you start cleaning everyone else's backyard.
Exactly. But privatization, real choice in VA healthcare is a huge issue. There's no veteran should have to worry about waiting a month, 3 months, whatever for an appointment. And trust me, regardless of whether they say it's fixed, it's not fixed, because I could call right now and try to get a hold of my primary care for you and would not get anybody on the phone, and it would be a month or longer before they ever return my call.
Right.
Yeah.
So access, follow up, that's all issues.
Right. So okay, let's
just
send
having the
these
VA
guys.
card is not cutting it.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not good enough. And the other thing is that and I was involved in the push for this with an organization I used to work for, with the push to get Congress to pass the VA Accountability Act and the VA Choice Act. It was a good step in the right direction. But now what they're doing is they're giving a card to anyone who lives 50 miles or farther from a VA. But even with that, they still have to go through their doctors at the VA to get to use a private doctor. So they're still dealing with the same inept system to get permission, even though they have this card. That card really means nothing.
Yeah, if you can't access with that card.
Right.
And then in addition, with the traumatic brain injury, when you get hit by a force, an explosion that can flip a vehicle over 6 times, what happens is you lose your memory. You often lose your childhood memory. You lose all your memory. So if you have a system that tells you you have an appointment in 2 weeks, and then you honestly forget that appointment.
Right, and it happens.
These people can't remember their wives' names. They can't remember their social security, their birthdays. And they forget their appointment, and then they get thrown out of the system for not making their appointment.
And then they act like you've done something wrong. Well, my God, you're my primary care doctor, primary care nurse, whatever. Shouldn't you be tracking this for me? Isn't that your job? Any other doctor in the civilian world, I know when my daughter has to go to the doctor or has an appointment, they call and let us know. They remind us, and they call again,
And again, veterans are never needy. They're never like, hey, do this for me, do that for me. These guys wrote a check, blank check, payable up to the price of their life to serve the country, to serve you guys listening. And they're going to need a little help when they've lost their memory.
Right.
A better callback system, a better follow-up system, a better access system.
And back to the system with the VA disability pay versus the retired pay and the CRSC. You look at a veteran who's sitting there saying, how am I going to pay for Christmas for my children this year? How am I going to do that and pay the bills? Or just how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to put tires on my car? Any number of things. And the reason I'm mentioning these things is they're all things I've gone through or I'm going through. And then you ask yourself, why do we have 20-something veterans a day killing themselves? That's why. Because you know what? A lot of them feel like I'm better off for my family dead than I am alive. And that's a problem.
It's 1 an hour almost that's killing themselves. And, I love this perspective. Medic on the front lines, patient, TBI patient.
Infantryman on the front lines.
You spoke to Congress. You do a lot of advocacy work now. But in addition, underneath this, there's a bunch of tattoos. He's an infantry guy.
Yeah.
So he's lived it as well. So very interesting perspective, Captain Mark Moody.
Battle continues to help America's wounded soldiers.
Battle continues.
Battle continues.